Hi, I'm MJ from Linus Publications, and I want to cover Stephen Miller. We're getting more on the ICE operations, and there's a very good possibility that he's involved with this and that he's directing this behind the scenes. So I want to get an idea of where he's sort of coming from. I do want to make a note. I do have two other videos out there on Stephen Miller. Believe they were done around October. So the one we're doing right now will be covering from January up until the end of May. So it is going to be a little bit of a long session. I'll try and speed it up. And I am going to have charts here, so you can actually reference that information. We do have a time of birth, and it seems to be pretty concise, but I'm not really going to have too many angles to like the houses or anything like that. I'm actually doing most of the angles just to the planets themselves. I do have one that is going to the midheaven. That's one of the first ones we're going to cover. Now, for people that don't know, Stephen Miller is part of the Trump administration, and he is a very focused on making sure we don't have immigration. So without further ado, let us move to our first chart. And this chart will be for the month of February. We don't really have anything in January. So we're going to bypass that and we're going to move right into February. And all of the items we have here are transits. So they're going to be all on this one chart. Now, the first transit we have is for 218 and that is Pluto squaring midheaven. Now, Pluto is typically regeneration, revamping, transformation, but it tends to bring out where you have power struggles, where things topple, where things literally have to be transformed from the foundation up. It can be power that you wield or power that's wielded against you. There's also, since it's Pluto, it's obsession with control. Either that or others controlling you. And because it's about control, you're always fearful of losing status. So it is sort of like you're obsessed with making sure you still have power. It can be, in this case, since it's a Pluto square midheaven, square is a difficult angle, midheaven is your status. It could be that there's a coup against you. It could be it's the end of a political chapter in this case. Doesn't mean that there isn't another chapter, but it could be that this is the end of one. Some chance of him being pushed out, but it could also indicate that if he's strong enough, he's going to survive from the power struggles that are going on. But the one thing you can say is that things change. So now when we move on to the next angle, it's on 220. This is Saturn, and it's in conjunct Sun. Saturn in a difficult angle is usually restriction. And what is it on? Sun. That's the identity of the person. The inconjunct is you can't get here from there. So what's happening here is he's no longer fitting the reality. And that could be of the party that he's associated with. So at this point, and this is February, it looks like maybe the political climate has moved on past what he is really focused on. And it could also be he's no longer taken seriously. So whereas now he has influence, it could be that that is waning. This comes with limits. So that means restrictions. So he's going to have limits on what he's going to be able to be out there saying. And it's likely he's going to have diminished visibility out there. Could have burnout, and his ambitions get blocked here. So it's not like he's got an easy stepping stone here. There's things going on that are stopping him from accomplishing what he wants to do. Same time, we have Neptune in conjunct the Sun. What's Neptune? Neptune is the fogginess, it's the idealism. The inconjunct is you can't get here from there. And the Sun is, again, his identity. So this is a fogginess, and it's sort of like how he's functioning in this political landscape. So maybe the people are sort of like, what is he still doing here? What does he stand for? What does he mean? So he's disconnected from things. He's not going to be able to state the purpose of things. So I don't want to say he's tongue-tied because he's always really great at getting a narrative out there. But it's more like he's lost control and he's sort of drifting rather than steering the ship at this point. And that could be really important. So it could be that someone else is coming in to sort of oversee. It could be that maybe Trump actually starts to look at what he's actually doing. Now, Neptune sometimes is associated with just not feeling well, stuff like that. So it could affect, the stamina, could, cause some, medical issues coming up. But Neptune is also things that are not really quite visible. So it could also indicate hidden agendas with the people around him. Now, on 225, we've got Neptune squaring Neptune, and this is a transit. And this is generational. Now, in this case, this is anyone that has a birthday about plus or minus a year will be experiencing some of this. Not at this time, but sort of over the plus or minus 1 year period. And in effect, there's a crisis of purpose. Sort of like you're being demonized. Your ideas don't fit anymore. You don't have clarity, or people don't think you have clarity. And importantly enough, you may overestimate the loyalty of people around you. In his position, he's loyal to Trump. But you have to question, is Trump loyal to him? So there's going to be subtle power plays in addition to the very overt ones going on. He's going to be questioning his role, his purpose. And you might see him shifting his political alliances. It's hard to tell who he's aligned with in the White House, but it could be he starts aligning with other people, maybe even outside the White House. So when we finish up looking at February, you can see he's going to have power, confrontations, power struggles, possibly investigations, and it's going to be an end of a chapter for him. The political climate has moved on past him. He's lost control in situations he's in, and he's likely trying to shift his alliances. Now, the next thing that happens is as we move into March, we're going to look at our next chart, which is going to be a solar direction. And this is going to be for 3-1. And this is for the North Node in conjunct Saturn. And the North Node is typically where we're heading, but where we're heading, in effect, we can't get there. And this is the Saturn. And what happens is looks like he's being pushed into a role that he's not comfortable with. Now, when we look at 3-6, this is the next chart, and this is a transit. What happens is we've got Saturn in conjunct Pluto. In this case, his old power tactics are just not working anymore. Saturn is restriction, can't get there from here, and what is it? His power. So he's losing his power base. And it could be either because Trump is losing the base, or Miller is losing it directly. There's going to be internal power struggles, and he's going to be forced to change. And we may actually see some abuse of power coming from him. Now, when we look at the next chart, which is a progression, and this is on 310, we've got Venus squaring Uranus. In this case, what happens is that this is breaking, in effect, the political partnerships. Venus is your voters, people that follow you, your communities. And with squared Uranus, that means that there's some break here. Something that has been done means that there's some type of realignment. Maybe it's in the party. Maybe it's something the party's done. Maybe it's something Miller has done. Now, this, in effect, means that the loyalties of the base start shifting. Now, he could be becoming more unconventional, what could cause that? Or maybe there's just some type of disruption. Now, the next one we have is a transit, and this is for 321, so the other chart here. And we've got Chiron, which is squaring Venus. Again, Venus. So this is his followers, the voters, the base, people that like him. And you've got some public perception here that's not working well. And a lot of this is going to be because of Chiron, his wounds. So maybe things that worked well in the past are no longer working well. Now, when we move on to the next chart, and this is for 331, this is a solar arc, and this is Jupiter in conjunct Mars. In this case, he's just, Jupiter is sort of too much exaggeration when it's in a difficult angle. Here it's in conjunct, can't get there from here, and it's on Mars. Mars is his aggression, his actions. So he's just pushing too aggressively and he's not getting anything done. He's overreaching. He is challenged. He's grandstanding. And he's likely fighting without any good reason to do that. So when we come back over March, it's sort of going to be an uneasy period for him. His tactics are no longer working. The base looks like it's shifting its loyalties. And the public in general starts to retreat, which could be polls. And he feels challenged. When we move into April, we've got one angle. This is another chart here. And this is for 4-6, and this is a transit. And this is Neptune in conjunct Pluto. And this is generational. And this is going to affect people, plus or minus a year from the date of birth of Stephen Miller. In this case, it's dissolving the existing power structure. So what you thought the pyramid you were in all of a sudden starts dissolving away. And you're no longer sure where you are. So you have a loss of influence. Nothing is working like it used to. So you might be paranoid about things, and you might be overestimating loyalty. And for example, think of it as you're working at a company. If you worked yourself up to a good, reasonable position, you can expect a lot more steps upward. And the company is bought out. So you're being taken over by another company. Everything you've worked for may literally have just gone out the door. You can't depend on things. You can't depend on where you thought you'd be able to get to. So this is what typically is happening to people at around the age of Steve Miller at this time, plus or minus a year or two. So it's in effect a loss of influence. What you had goes away. So let's take a look at May, the last month. And these are transits. So let's take a look at 5-9. And we have Uranus squaring the sun. Uranus is disruption on what? His identity. So he's going to start getting challenges, loss of. Now, the challenges can sometimes turn into opportunities, but you have to work through the challenge first. But this is destabilizing. Uranus is like electricity flying through the air. People will challenge his authority. He's erratic. And the key point here is he wants to break away from anyone that's trying to control him. So if this is the Congress that's trying to control him, typically that would put him in some type of jeopardy with following rules. Our next one is also a transit, and it's on 5-12. This is Uranus in conjunct Neptune. Uranus is the changes, in conjunct, can't get there from here. Neptune is your personal, in effect, fantasies, your ideology, your visions. In this case, Uranus is disrupting his identity, maybe his visions, his political narratives. Because of that, he's going to start saying things that are pretty confusing. He's going to also try to start redefining his political identity. Now, lastly, for May, we have on 5-21, we've got Jupiter trining Saturn. And this is a transit. This is actually a good angle. A lot of the other ones have been difficult. Now, this gives him opportunities for long-term positioning. So he can get some gain over the long term. He's able to build coalitions. He's gaining influence, improved judgment, and he can execute on some of his long-term plans. But have to think about what's been happening in the previous months. So this looks like sort of like, okay, maybe he's been moved out or out of power, and then he moves into another place where he's got some power. So in general, May is going to be very challenging, erratic. His identity gets dissolved, and maybe something else comes up as a long-term position for him. I hope you enjoyed this and have a good day. Bye now.